Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Wooster City Council this February 5th, 2018. It is after 7:30 p.m. Because of President's Day, the next scheduled meeting for council will be Tuesday, February 20th, 2018, at which time the mayor will be giving his State of the City address. And that will be at 6:30 and council meeting will be at 7:30. As clerk of council, Mr. Paulo, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Ansel?
Here.
Mr. Costancic?
Here.
Mr. Cavan?
Here.
Mr. Myers?
Here.
Mr. Sanders?
Here.
Mr. Silvestri?
Here.
Mr. Warden? Here.
We're all here, so have a quorum. The agenda will remain as presented. At this time, I would ask you to stand and join City Council in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from January 16th, 2018.
So moved.
Motion to approve by Mr. Ansel. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Silvestri. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Minutes of January 16, 2018 are approved. Mr. Mayor, welcome. We had a nice dinner there at the hospital where you're on the board, and as always, it was most enlightening, and we have a lot to be proud of based on what happened in 2017.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Bidendijk, and I agree completely with that statement. We had really one of the best years we've ever had at our hospital in 2017, so we do have much to be proud of in our community and our association with the Wooster Community Hospital and the hospital district that we have under wraps up there. So, just a few things to alert you to tonight. I just want to compliment and thank Dick Seaman and his family and the Seaman Corporation for building a brand new facility in our community called the Aspen Tennis Facility. They had a ribbon cutting and an open house there on Saturday, January 27th. And it is a world-class facility. In fact, I'm not sure there are any courts like it in the state of Ohio other than possibly down at Ohio State University. So a very nice facility. It was built and put together yes, I noticed Mr. Ansel complimenting Mr. Sanders there because he played a very integral part in the construction of that facility, and it is really a world-class facility, and we are thankful. They built it at their own cost, and they are asking to work with the city, and you are all aware of it because I came to you to make sure that you were agreeable with it, but they would like to donate about 10 acres of land on the south side of it for a new park for the city. So that is in the process, and we're working our way through that. So, but a great facility for our town, and really an economic development engine which will bring people into our community. Two things that I want to make sure you know about, although I know you've all been sent information, but this Friday we have our annual spaghetti luncheon for our staff and employees and members of our boards and commissions and people who help make our city come together. And so if you're available, it's at noon down at the community center. We are lucky to have Josephine Howie and George Grandy, both who are related and very fond members of the Howie family who started this many years ago. And Mr. Bidendijk has always been an integral part in helping to make the thing happen and roll meatballs and all that fun stuff. So noon this Friday, if you can make it, we'd love to have you there. The other is we've got something on our parking for the downtown. We've been doing some tweaking. Joel and Andrew Dutton and Jonathan Millay and Tim Monet have been working hard in the background to try to come up with a better way to run our parking lots downtown and to make sure that they turn over well and that all spots are used and not leased and just standing empty. So that discussion is going to happen on Friday, February 23rd at 8:30 a.m. here in this room. And we have invited Main Street and anyone in the downtown district that is interested in joining us to talk about it. So if you are available and would like to get in on that conversation, we can give you some of the ideas that have been generated in bringing that forward. Annual reports for 2017 have been compiled by all our managers and have been coming into Joel. I think he is asked to have them all submitted by next week, at which time he'll go through and compile them into sort of a whole syllabus worth of information about our city functions for the 2017 year, and we'll be getting those out to you once they are compiled. So with that, I thank you, and we're here to help any conversations in the meeting tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, appreciate it. And again, February 20th at 6:30, we'll hear the mayor's State of the City address. That brings us to petitions. There is a liquor license/permit petition. Would you please read that?
Notice to Legislative Authority, B&T Stations LLC, 209 Bell Avenue, Wooster, Ohio, 44691. It's a transfer from the Sunoco there that's on the corner of North and Bell. They are asking for permit classes C1, C2, and D6.
Okay. So just to review, we have three options. We can request a hearing here in the city of Worcester, request a hearing down in Columbus, or waive having a hearing. I'll entertain a motion on whatever preference.
Motion to waive hearing, Mr. President.
Motion to waive by Mr. Ansel. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Myers. Would you please call the motion, the roll on the motion to waive hearing?
Ansel?
Yes.
Costanzo?
Yes.
Cavan?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes.
Sanders?
Yes.
Silvestri?
Yes.
Warden? Yes.
And so we'll waive the hearing, and as you have done so many times before, Madam Clerk, would you please let the Department of Liquor Control, we waive the hearing on this petition. Thank you. Committee reports and public hearings. I don't think we've had any committee meetings. We did have that joint dinner tonight with the Board of Trustees of the hospital, and Worcester doesn't know how lucky we are to have the caliber of hospital for a town this size. It's just phenomenal, and like many things, when you have it in your backyard, you tend to take it for granted, but we're very lucky. And just a point in fact, when Medina Hospital was taken over, they eliminated the OB/GYN, so now Medina's scrambling for a place to send their folks. The closest place besides Worcester is into Akron, so we have a lot of other programs that are just unbelievable, and the city is very fortunate. We have no old business that allow us to run right into new business, and this will be ordinance number 2018-003. It'll be presented by Mr. Sanders, and it's slated for 3 readings. If you would, please read the title.
Ordinance number 2018-003. An ordinance to approve and adopt current replacement pages to the codified ordinances and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Sanders, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. What we have this evening on this ordinance is corrections, updates, more updates with our codified ordinances regarding traffic code, and then also the general offenses code that will bring our ordinances more into line or back into line with evidently changes that have occurred at the state with the Ohio Revised Code. In light of the fact that there's a little bit of reading involved with this, and as far as I know, this isn't any type of emergency situation where it needs to be done right away. At this point, we'll leave this on first reading this evening and let everyone get their arms around it. If we have any questions, in 2 weeks, we'll hit it again. If not, we'll move it along.
Yeah, basically, it's to, where our codified ordinances mirror the states, it's to get in line, and as you also pointed out, you know, we do pass some ordinances in the course of the year, and it's also to incorporate them, so. Anyways, we'll consider,
Mr. Silvestri has a question.
oh,
I just wanted to be clear, does this include, I think it's an annual or semi-annual update of things that come from the traffic commission as well? No traffic commission stuff?
No, these are ordinances, either our ordinances, all the drain updates are online ordinances, and then they give a paper copy.
Okay.
But I think everybody has a book, so we get the paper
Okay.
inserts.
and while we're talking about it, sometime in the next few weeks, let me know whether or not you use the paper copies or you are using the online stuff. I know a former council member who retired was not very technologically savvy, so he always had his bound volume. I, for one, I'm not sure where mine is, and I haven't updated it. That on me, but I've always used what's online, and we could save some significant dollars if we eliminate having to have paper copy updates. But let me know what your preference is, and I'll let our clerk know so she can make a note when it's time to have it updated. We can contact Walter Jane and say, thanks, but no thanks, we only need one or two. I know we have to provide one to the municipal court, so, and I know we have to have one on hand here, but I'm not sure all council needs them, but let me know. That brings us to the first reading of ordinance number 2018-004. It'll be presented by Ms. Warden. It is slated for 3 readings, and it, just to telegraph it, it deals with the jigsaw puzzle of various parking lots and the agreements or handshakes that have taken place, so we're trying to consolidate it, and there's a little trading and swapping along, but it will hopefully dovetail into what that meeting's going to be, where Mr. Malay's going to present his idea. And you're providing breakfast at that meeting too, seeing it's 8:30 in the morning, aren't you, Mr. Malay? Eggs? Yeah, I like mine over easy.
Fair enough.
All right. So before we get to you, Ms. Warden, I'll have Ms. DiPaolo read the title.
Ordinance number 2018-004. An ordinance authorizing the acceptance of a parking lot from the Wayne County Commissioners and its subsequent transfer to the Wooster Growth Corporation.
Ms. Warden, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Beitnick. I'd like to thank Jonathan Millay for putting together a lot of really helpful information that I will be able to use to present this to you. If you have any questions, Mr. Millay is in the audience, as well as a representative from the St. Paul Hotel, who I'm sure would be able to clarify any questions you might have. But briefly, I'll just explain what this transfer will take, or what will transpire. The St. Paul Hotel Properties, in collaboration with the Wayne County Commissioners, is seeking the City of Worcester's assistance in accepting and transferring property it currently leases for overnight parking to support its expansion in downtown Worcester. The St. Paul Hotel has been a fixture in downtown Worcester's redevelopment over the last decade, having brought an abandoned apartment building through a major renovation to create the city's most prominent boutique hotel. Recently expanded in 2017, the establishment today provides 16 guest suites, producing approximately $1,000 annually per room and bed tax, in addition to employee payroll and business earnings tax. The St. Paul Hotel originally approached city staff and the Wooster Growth Corporation in the fall of 2016 about the need to acquire additional land to support the business's growing operations. In addition to its most recent expansion, the company seeks to position itself for future expansion. To enable the hotel's growth, council previously authorized the transfer of the South Market Street lot to Wooster Growth. The Community Improvement Corporation has since arranged for the hotel to acquire a portion of the property at its fair market value. Also needed, however, is about 1/10 of an acre parcel known as 64-00147, which is owned by the Wayne County Commissioners and was leased to the city in 2007 and then subleased to the hotel through Wooster Growth. At the same time, the city presently provides 27 parking spaces to Wayne County for employee parking, in part as a return for the St. Paul Hotel parking lot lease, but also per a 1992 lease where the county made its employee parking available for commercial lease to support the creation of the Everything Rubbermaid store in Public Square. The proposed is council's authorization to accept parcel 64-00147 from the Wayne County Commissioners as permitted under the Ohio Revised Code 301.10b, and council's authorization to then transfer the same parcel to the acceptance of the property by the city that will require the Wayne County Commissioners and the city to mutually terminate their 1992 parking lease agreement, freeing up 12 parking spaces for public use in the South Buckeye parking lot, where there is a current waiting list for leased spaces. Once in the care of the Wooster Growth Corporation, the property would then be transferred to the St. Paul Hotel Properties in return for the business maintaining its operation to encourage the ongoing economic development of downtown Worcester. This transfer will support economic development, unwind complicated lease arrangements, and make more desirable public parking for downtown Worcester. Jonathan, did you bring the exhibit? Okay, so that's available if people want to view it online,
Correct.
correct?
Oh, I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
It's available if anyone in the public would like to view it online, is that correct?
I believe so, yes, we'll double check, but that should be included as part of the agenda for anybody who's interested, they can go to agenda and pull it up. for this
Okay.
meeting.
And I do know that this is on first reading, but the the Wayne County Commissioners and the St. Paul Hotel are ready to move forward as soon as we approve this. So I would encourage us to move it to final reading tonight.
I assume you're here on behalf of St. Paul?
Members of council, yes. Matt Long, I'm here on behalf of the St. Paul Hotel.
Don't hold it against him that Greg's his dad, who we had dinner with tonight.
Try not to hold my father against me too much. He's an esteemed member of our hospital board. I'm joined by Michael Gallucci from RDA Management, which is the management company that manages the hotel.
Okay, so if you have any
Yeah, does anyone have
any questions, it's been a long tortured, over a number of years of all the different parking lots we've acquired, leased, traded. Some things are in writing, some things like they used to do in the old days are, we think, on a handshake, and then it just continued that way. So this is trying to, consolidate everything, and I think, and Jen and I had talked that I think that when it's all said and done, I think Jonathan related to me too, that all said and done, I think we lose one parking space downtown, so. And I have to compliment the St. Paul Hotel that, it's an example of what happens when the city and the council and the folks that do the downtown redevelopment all move in the right direction and believe in the downtown, invest in the downtown. We have a nice, lovely hotel down there at St. Paul's, and It just breathed new life into that section of the downtown. That's Mr. Cavan.
Yes, I would just remark too that it goes hand in hand with the expansion that's occurred down there, and much needed space and perfect place for it.
And if I could point out, I did mention that the hotel brings in annual bed tax of $1,000 per room. They're hoping that this expansion will include a conference center and also at least 4 more rooms, which would be an added $4,000 annually to our local tax haul from the bed taxes.
Not to the additional dollars it spreads around as
Of
they go out
course.
to dinner and things
Absolutely.
like that. Yes, Mr. Sylvester.
Just to be clear, looking at this Exhibit A here, the St. Paul Hotel currently owns number 1, where the county parking is, right? But that's more valuable, it's more valuable to them to have these, specifically lots 2 and 3.
Correct. The St. Paul Hotel purchased from the Wayne Center of the Arts, what's identified as lot number 1, which happens to be proximate to a lot of the county's parking needs.
Right.
And, right now, the county has those spots in various city lots, and it will be good for them to consolidate those in one place.
And number 3, which is currently owned by the city, that's going to end up being used in the expansion, no longer parking, but used by the St. Paul Hotel for their expansion project. That's where these 4 rooms are going to go, basically?
No, so to clarify, looking at your map, Lot 3 is currently parking. When the hotel was originally built, it's important to provide each guest with an on-site parking so they're not walking luggage over a long distance. Lot 2, when the hotel was built, was sufficient to carry the original number of rooms at the hotel. Kind of since this process started, the hotel already did phase 1 of the expansion, adding 4 guest rooms over the last year, needed parking spots for those. So really, Lot 3, what's identified as Lot 3, will take up those additional rooms spots and account for additional parking in future expansion. At the next phase, which is not imminent, but certainly in planning, would be where Lot 4 is located. It makes sense to continue the front-facing facade of the hotel, moving south for any future expansion, opens up the potential of retail space, and opens up the potential for Market Street-facing rooms.
Sure, great. Thank you.
So did I hear that you maybe have a motion for us?
I have,
Ms.
yes, I move that we place this on 3rd and final reading.
Warden? All right, motion to suspend the rules by Ms. Warden. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Cavan, seconded. Would you call the roll on the suspension of the rules?
Cavan,
Yes.
Warden,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Sanders,
Yes.
Silvestri,
Yes.
Bastancik,
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
The rules are suspended. I turn to you for yet another motion, Ms. Warden.
I move that we accept the proposal.
All right, motion to adopt by Ms. Warden. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Silvestri. Would you please call the roll on the motion to adopt?
Cavan,
Yes.
Warden,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Sanders,
Yes.
Silvestri,
Yes.
Bastancik,
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 2018-004 passes. Turning our attention now, we'll be looking at resolution number 2018-011. It'll be presented by Mr. Ansel. We had discussed this after our committee on the public utilities of the water and sewer, so this shouldn't come to anyone's surprise, and it also dovetails into the fact that the rates are going up, and part of what needs to be put into these funds that Mr. Ansel will tell us about. Before we get there, I will have Ms. DiPaolo, if she would be so kind, to read the title.
Resolution number 2018-011, a resolution authorizing the Director of Finance to establish two new funds to be known as the Water Capital Projects Fund and the Sewer Capital Projects Fund.
Mr. Ansel, the floor is yours, sir.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. This is a very fundamental chart of accounts application
No pun intended.
where we will be adhering to good general acceptable accounting practices, whereas we will receive revenues from the water and sewer bills on a monthly basis. We will allocate the portion for operating expenses in the existing chart of accounts. We will separate and allocate proportionately a capital improvement, capital expenditure chart of accounts or funds, so we can build up those dollars, at which point in time in the future we can budget accordingly and we can make those expenditures in accordance to those funds available in those accounts. So very straightforward, very routine, as any business would allocate its operating expenses and its capital improvement funds separately. This puts us in a very consistent and transparent level of accountability as to where those dollars are going and how they're being used. So I commend the accounting department for taking this initiative and creating the transparency to the consumers of those water and sewage services, and allow us to begin to develop a more finite budget for required repairs and capital improvements in infrastructure. If there aren't any questions because of the clarity and straightforwardness of this initiative, I would motion to suspend the rules and move Resolution 2018, and what's the number of that?
011.
011 to third and final reading.
I'll take that as a motion. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Warden. Would you please call the roll on the motion to suspend the rule?
Bastancik?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes.
Sanders?
Yes.
Silvestri?
Yes.
Warden?
Yes.
Ansel?
Yes.
Cavan?
Yes.
Do you have another?
Motion to adopt, Mr. President.
Motion to adopt by Mr.
Mr. Myers
Ansel.
had a question?
I just wanted to clarify, this is,
Well, we'll get to that.
oh, is that not now?
Is there a second on the motion to adopt?
Second.
Second by Mr. Silvestri. Now you may ask your question. Sorry.
I just trying to clarify, this is basically, it's $24 a year per household in additional tax. It's going to go to a capital improvement fund for infrastructure improvements.
There may be a portion of that that go to a deficit on the operating expense side. I don't know if it's the full $24, and Andre didn't delineate how that would be put into infrastructure versus operating expenses. Is there a comment?
The capital funds are intended to be for capital.
100% then?
Yep.
So that, yeah, so it's $1 per month per fund for each
Correct.
of them.
And this comes from user fees, but it also can be funded by council. If we need to take on bigger projects, you can move general fund money into an enterprise fund. You can never take it back from an enterprise fund. So it ensures that once it's there in a capital line item, it will get spent on capital.
And it allows us to build our reserves and have that
Exactly.
visibility as to how those reserves are accumulating.
Exactly.
Good question, though. I was going to reach out to Andre, but it is 100% of the increase.
Yeah, we would not have had to create these two funds. It's good accounting practice too, but we could continue to function like we had, where all the money comes in for fees and some of it goes to O&M, some of it went to capital. But this is just being much more transparent.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Myers.
Anything else? Seeing none, would you please call the roll on the motion to adopt?
Bastancik?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes.
Sanders?
Yes.
Silvestri?
Yes.
Warden?
Yes.
Ansel?
Yes.
Cavan?
Yes.
Resolution number 2018-011 passes. We'll be turning to Mr. Cavan in a moment on resolution number 2018-012. It is a budgeted item, so we will not need to suspend the rules. I do see some of the folks from the different safety forces who might benefit from this here tonight, so if you have questions. But before we get to Mr. Cavan and questions, would you please, Ms. DiPaolo, read the title?
Resolution number 2018-012. A resolution authorizing the Director of Administration to purchase vehicles and/or equipment in accordance with the capital plan for 2018 and declaring an emergency.
Okay, Mr. Cavan, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. This request is to replace two command units, Ford Explorers for the fire chief and the assistant fire chief, and also to replace a utility truck that is used, among other things, to plow the lot. But anytime things need to be moved from department to department where you don't need to use another vehicle, its purpose is just that, utility, to move things between departments. And now we have 3 stations, so it's replacing a 28-year-old vehicle. And I did see the price Chief Silly had shown me, and I was quite impressed with the price for the utility truck, complete with the snow plow at $24,769. And again, these are budgeted as well. And also to replace the 2 Explorers for the chief and the assistant fire chief as well. And they are here if anyone has any questions.
You couldn't get 30 years out of it there, Saley?
We're trying.
But with the other 2, he had explained to me they're beginning to run into mechanical issues, and, far be it from us to have command units that don't start when you come out of the driveway to go somewhere, so they're kind of a higher priority, I'd say.
Yes. And let the utility vehicle, once again, and I say it all the time, it's amazing how many years we wring out of a vehicle, whether it's for fire or maintenance or police. We are very judicious in terms of keeping them in good repair, and I can't imagine that's eligible for antique plates.
Almost.
Good question. Chief Saley, you said that this will come equipped with a snowplow?
We have the snowplow currently on the utility vehicle. So this particular utility vehicle is going to have a snowplow prep package.
Okay.
So it will have, the prep package in, so then we can take it to our vendor and use our current snowplow on.
Okay. And what properties do you actually, does the fire department plow?
We take care of at each station.
Okay.
So each station has its own utility vehicle. That way, like Mr. Cavan said, we're not driving fire engines or ambulances around to do minuscule tasks or move equipment around. But they also double up as snow plows and other functions for us. So that particular unit will take care of the station number 3, and as we discussed when we talked with Curtis EPM, that it is able to fit into the bike path in front of station 3. So we were able to measure the actual truck and the plow width to be able to take care of that.
Thank you.
No further questions. I would propose to move this to 3rd and final reading.
How about a motion to adopt?
Oh, because it's budgeted. Okay. Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Cavan. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Bostancic. Would you please call the roll on the motion to adopt?
Myers?
Yes.
Sanders?
Yes.
Silvestri?
Yes.
Warden?
Yes.
Ansel?
Yes.
Cavan?
Yes.
And Bastancik.
Yes.
Okay, resolution number 2018-012 passes, so hopefully we can get close to 28 years out of this one as well, but that's amazing.
And hopefully we won't have to use the snowplow. It's all this
Not
stuff.
this year.
That's what I'm crossing.
That would be nice. That brings us to our final piece of legislation, ordinance number 2018-005. Our state legislature keeps putting onerous mandates on us, and this is part of that. And part of the issue is that the case down there in Franklin County, the judge kind of issued a order that was like half a loaf, and for a while it wasn't sure if it was the entire piece of the revised code was enjoined or part of it, and it was finally determined that part of it was still going to be allowed to go forward, while the part that was objected to with regard to centralization of collection of income tax was stayed. So that's why the last 2 weeks we've kind of had this piecemeal, because the judicial branch was not clear. So this is part of the state mandate, which is why it's coming here at the last minute, because it wasn't determined until recently that this portion also had to go into effect. Did I give it justice?
Somewhat. I think the ultimate problem is the state always overstepping their bounds with
Well,
rural issues. I mean, that's the bottom
Yeah.
line. We weren't part of
That
this
goes
lawsuit,
without
but
saying, but this is a mandate that is,
because they passed this and it was challenged in 2 different cases, the one that Mr. Biteneck's referencing, and there's one in Lorraine. So there was some confusion about this. We could put it on first reading tonight, but there is a deadline of the 24th.
Okay.
And we were amending this up until 3 o'clock. I was going back and forth with Walter Haverfield about this, so.
Okay. Well, it'll be presented by Mr. Sanders, but before I get to him, would you please read the title?
Ordinance number 2018-005, an ordinance amending various sections of Chapter 1701 of the codified ordinance of the City of Wooster, Ohio, income tax to correspond with Chapter 718 of the Ohio Revised Code, enacting new section 1701.21 and declaring an emergency.
And the floor is yours, Mr. Sanders.
Thank you, Mr. President. In light of the conversation we've already had, I'm not sure that there's much more to discuss. Everyone on council was, I'm assuming you guys got a copy of the client memorandum from Walter Haverfield, which basically explains the situation that we're in with this, discusses the items that are going to need to be changed based on House Bill 49, and then the sections of our revised code that we need to make changes to. You know, in light of the fact that, yeah, we just received this at 3:30 this afternoon. We have a deadline of February 24th. Our next meeting is the 20th, so again, we've got another piece that, this one at least is extremely time sensitive, so we'll have to get our hands around this between now and the 20th. If you've got any questions, let's get them asked to the administration so that we can approve this on the 20th, because at this point, this will have, without passage of this, this will have a negative effect on our ability to collect certain taxes, and obviously we don't want to inhibit our ability to do that any more than the state is already doing that for us. So with that, if there's any questions, I have nothing else to add.
Well, we'll consider ordinance number 2018-005 as having its first reading, and as you related, come on the 20th of February with the purpose of passing it that evening. Okay, that ends the legislative portion. I would entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss negotiations and bargaining and also a personnel matter.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Ansel to go in executive session. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Silvestri. Would you please call the roll on the motion to go into executive session?
Silvestri?
Yes.
Gordon?
Yes.
Ansel?
Yes.
Cavan?
Yes.
Costanza?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes.
Sanders?
Yes.
Okay, we are now off the record and go adjourn into executive session. I will now entertain a motion to go out of executive session.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Silvestri, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Sanders. Would you please call the roll on the motion to come out of executive session?
Silvestri?
Yes.
Gordon?
Yes.
Ansel?
Yes.
Cavan?
Yes.
Costanza?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes.
Sanders?
Yes.
All right, we now are back officially on the record. Okay. So, we're out of executive session.
President Bite,
Yes,
I'd like to make a
Mr. Myers.
motion. I'd like to make a motion that the City Council of Worcester this evening accept the findings of the mediation report dated February 1st, number 2017, MED-070834.
Okay, a motion by Mr. Myers to accept the fact finder report. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Bostancic. All in favor of accepting the fact finder report, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. So if you would reflect in the record that a vote to accept the fact finder report was taken and unanimously approved. That brings us to the miscellaneous section of the agenda. So at this point in time, we'll start with Ms. Warden.
Thank you, Mr. White. I would just like to thank the folks who aren't here any longer who helped prepare all the information for the proposal tonight to purchase or to sell the parking lots to help with the St. Paul Hotel's expansion. And that's it.
Were you really good at Monopoly? I mean, that was like moving things around.
It was, I think it was untying a lot of complicated knots that, yeah.
Well, it was well presented.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Warden. Mr. Ansel.
Yes, kudos to the Wooster Community Hospital. Again, our annual dinner and operational overview was quite insightful, and very proud of their continued superlative performance. Keep up the good work.
Mr. Cavan.
I would echo Mr. Ansel's sentiments about the hospital, especially with the addition of the cancer center. Hospital's doing great work. We should all be very, very proud and grateful. Thank you.
Mr. Bostancic.
Nothing tonight.
Mr. Myers.
Thank you, President Bite. I would also like to say I certainly enjoyed the presentation by Mr. Scherer this evening of the kind of state of things at the hospital. It was very educational. I had an interesting situation in the last 72 hours prior to our meeting at the hospital this evening. Two independent, separate people, one in Orville, one in Worcester, shared with me their experiences in dealing with the Worcester Community Hospital. One of them had to take her mother to the emergency room due to some of the respiratory stuff that's going around. And she brought up and commented what a wonderful experience it was for her 83-year-old mother, that they treated her really amazingly well in the ER. They ended up having to admit her, and it was just a really great experience. Obviously, she was not well, but she got out today and is doing fine. But she commented to me about how wonderful that was and what a great facility and the staff was really amazing. Separately, a gentleman here in Worcester who was admitted with having a stroke told me that he was kept in 4 different departments, including ER, during his stay at the hospital. And he spends a good part of his time out of state and has a residence in another state. And the comment was he was so happy he was here, he might not have made it if he hadn't been. And that it is bar none, not 90%, but 100% of the people, from the people in the middle of the night to the people that came in, all of them, great attitude and took great care of him. So ironically, then, that was within the last, from between Saturday and today, and then we had our meeting. So I just want to share that I do think we have a really valuable asset here at our hospital. We have really extremely good healthcare for a city of our size and probably for even anywhere in the state. So, second, I just want to note, although I did recommend the findings from the fact finder, I am a huge supporter of our fire and police department. And although this wasn't maybe the best possible deal for all sides, that's what negotiations are about. And I look forward to working with them going forward to help it be the best deal for everybody going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Myers. Mr. Sanders?
Nothing to add, Mr. President.
All right. And Mr. Silvestri?
Yes, just wanted to add one more piece to the hospital discussion. I want to thank Bill Sharon for his presentation. But I guess in summary, at a time when it's difficult in the healthcare industry and we see hospital facilities either closing or cutting services, we're proud to have in Wooster a facility that's expanding and adding services. So it really helped us to see the stark difference between some of the other things that we see going on in neighboring communities and what we have here in Worcester. And I just think, hats off to not only the hospital director, administrator, but also the hospital board, the work our mayor does, the work his administration does, and all the members of the team out there, because it's a phenomenal state-of-the-art facility. They had local companies as much as possible involved in the expansion. A $35 million expansion. It's commendable, it's phenomenal, and it's something right here in the middle of our community that we all can enjoy. Hopefully we never need it, but it's there.
Right.
Thank you.
And before I entertain Mr. Silvestri's motion to adjourn, I'd like to point out an accolade that one of our fellow council people received. Mr. Sanders was awarded the Scouter of the Year award by, was it Killbuck Council?
Killbuck District, Buckeye Council.
Buckeye So
Congratulations.
kudos to Mr. Sanders. He does a lot of work for the Boy Scouts, and it's one of the highest awards an adult can receive. So congratulations, Mr. Sanders.
Thank you.
So seeing Mr. Silvestri move to adjourn, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Warden. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.